Happy National Embroidery Month kickoff, everyone. If you haven't gotten your kit yet from DMC, make sure you head to their website. It's called the Ghoulish Scheme Kit and the Ghoulish Toolkit. We also offering 15% off of the kits with my code GOULAXDMC. And don't be worried if your materials haven't arrived in time. You should be okay to get them and use whatever you have if you need to. Here's what we're going to be covering today. Set the fabric in the hoop and placed the pattern onto the hoop so that we are ready to go bright and early on Monday morning. Okay, so let's cover materials first. DMC sells a Carolina linen. It is the sand colored 28 even weave. If you don't have access to this fabric, I would recommend using a linen look fabric. It's a lot easier to stitch on that. DMC sells this cork fabric, gives it a really cool texture. It's what we use here at the bottom to kind of give it that really cool cliff looking effect. We're going to be using 3 different types of needles. We're going to be using an 18 chenille needle, and this needle will be used for all of our thicker threads and our tapestry wool. Then we're going to have a 22 size needle, and this 22 size needle, I like this needle because unlike the 18, the eye matches the rest of the needle really well versus this eye's a little bigger than this and can leave really big holes. So we'll be using this for everything except those bigger pieces. So like for the atoll, for the color variations, and the regular embroidery floss, that kind of stuff. Have a size 3 needle. Now this we're using because we're going to be doing a lot of weaving here for the hat. And as you can see, there's a really small weaving and this helps make that easier. We also will be doing 3 different hair types for over 3 different days, and one of those hair types is a bullion knot, and this needle is really good for doing that. These 3 needle types are what we're going to be using. You can honestly use any type of needle depending on what you have available. You just be aware that it might be more difficult to use some of the thicker thread types if you don't have that. If threading the needles are too hard throughout the month, you can use a basic needle threader. You can buy those online, sewing kits that you find at the grocery store. That way it'll help you thread these needles. Like that frustration that's going to be there, it'll be easier to handle. There's a lot of different thread families that we're using this month to get different textures. To start off, we have our basic embroidery floss. This is a 6-strand cotton. This can be split up to 6 different strands. So that can give you really nice depth. And we will be splitting thread some of these poppies down here. Dull, glittery, metallic look to it, which I freaking love this thread. Here we're using it for the grass. I definitely am new to matte cotton and I did like it a lot. It's really got a nice look to it, and the texture is just very nice to feel for the clouds at the top. So nice little fluffy looks to it, as well as using this and the atoll for the hat. The tapestry will be used for the sweater here to kind of give it that nice, like warm, chunky sweater look. Satin floss looks really pretty when it's done, but it is really hard to work with. It unravels very easily. So you can see this is already starting to unravel. Just knowing it's going to be difficult starting out makes me less frustrated as I'm using it. And we're not going to use it for much. We have our color variations. The color variations are going to be used for the hair. We got 3 different hair types we're going to be doing braids, curly hair, and then locks to celebrate Black History Month. And we'll be doing the pearl cotton for the locks, and the blonde will be for the curly hair and the brown for the braids. However, y'all don't have to stick with these colors. Y'all have to stick with these thread types. Don't worry if you can't find color variations. Thread will be showing you on the days that we'll be using it a way to kind of cheat and make your own multicolored thread with just standard embroidery floss. So don't feel like you have to search every single store in the world to find this stuff. If you can only use what you have, only use what you have. I want that pressure to not be on you to try to match this absolutely perfect. Make it as easy as possible for yourself and don't stress too much. We'll make it work with what we have. We also will be using pearl cotton balls. These are size 8 for the mountains for our thread painting, which will be really fun. And last but not least, we'll be using ourselves some diamond for adding little extras in the sweater here. We have embroidery hoops. We'll be using a 7-inch embroidery hoop here. It's a wooden embroidery hoop. But you can use a plastic embroidery hoop. You can use, pretty much anything as long as it will hold the tension in the fabric. DMC sells a bunch of different types of scissors. There's scissors that come in the kit. However, any type of scissors will work. So don't feel limited if you can't seem to find this exact pair of scissors. That's all the materials we're going to be using this month. Now on to pattern transfer. Embroidery hoops come in 2 different pieces. You can separate them, take the inner piece without the screw, place it on the table. Then you're gonna wanna cut your fabric down to fit on the hoop, making sure to leave yourself a little room on the edges so that way you can pull your fabric tight throughout the month if you're needing to. Be aware that this kind of fabric will fray. Set of pinking shears, use those to cut around for your square. That'll prevent fraying. If you don't have pinking shears, you should be fine as long as you leave yourself some room on the edges. Is in your pattern a cork stencil. It's printed out so that way it kind of reaches across the entire hoop like this, and you're gonna want to trace around it, cut it out, making sure you cut so that way you don't see any of the marks that you were using to trace around it. Now, before we set our cork in the hoop, we got to figure out where it's going to lay according to the pattern. Printing your pattern on regular paper first. You don't want to waste the magic paper messing up like I did multiple times. Okay. So you print it out, you lay it on there, make sure you want to have at least a little bit of a border around here. As you can see, I have mine. Use your cork and kind of figure out using this line here where it's going to lie, the best position for it. See, the height here is the most important part. If this is a little overlap, you'll be fine. What I like to do is I like to pinch my fabric so I can know how far I need to set it. Kind of like pinch it, let it get set there. I'm gonna remove the pattern, the paper pattern, to set this based on the indentation that I had. So make sure your hoop also is tight, tight, tight. It'll make this so much more easier to work with. Here we go, laying flat, tuck this in here. Brilliant. Okay, so I've got my paper pattern here. Now it's time to print it on the magic paper. Come in size A5. And you won't be able to print the 7-inch pattern on just one. So what you'll have to do is take 2 pieces, tape them together. I used double-sided tape right here to tape this part, so that way there's no tape on this part of it. Then I take regular tape and I tape it on the back here. That way it'll hold it nice and sturdy. So there you go. Now you have a piece of paper that you can print on. So when you print it, it'll come in 2 pieces, okay? Come in 2 pieces because you're printing on the 2 different types. So it will look like this out of the printer. Cut around it. Magic paper peels. 2 pieces, okay? And you would place it on the fabric. Ta-da! Once you have it set, it's ready to go, ready to be stitched. Make sure the fabric is pulled tight. This is tied up here. You will be ready to get stitchy on Monday. That's it, the end of day 1. If you're needing a kit, head on over to DMC and look up the Ghoulish Skein Kit and the Ghoulish Tool Kit. And you'll be able to get everything that you need to get stitchy. Don't forget that when you use the code GOULAXDMC, you'll be able to get 15% off of your purchase of the kits. So definitely head on over there and check it out. Get your supplies wherever you can. Get your stuff prepared, get your pattern transferred, and then get ready for Monday when we're going to start getting stitchy together for National Embroidery Month.